I will show you IPVlan networking with Docker. This is a bit more trickier than the other networking scenarios I have shown you until now, like IPVlan and bridge networking. And also there are a couple of pitfalls that I will try to explain and clarify. So let's jump straight into the console, and let me show you a couple of things. First, our links. I will use as the parent interface this one, EMP0S8, which has this address, but it's not so important. And also let's display the Docker networks. It's the default setup. So we can jump right in and create a Docker IPVlan network. So Docker network create, driver would be IPVlan. Subnet for this network will be 192.168.15.0/24. And here I can specify a gateway, but with IPVlan that is discarded, that information, because all that is needed for the containers attached to IPVlan networking is to have a default network, default route through the interface, so they can have a default through ETH0 or something like that. So there's no point putting a gateway here, and also the information is disregarded anyway. And the important things are these options. First of all, is parent interface, which should be EMP0S8, as I told you. And the other one would be the IPVlan mode. And here I have to tell you that in my previous IPVlan layer 2 session, I gave you wrong information. I said here that you can do like this, mode equals L2, and this keyword is not valid actually. You need to specify IPVlan underscore mode, and in our case for today it would be layer 3. It worked in the previous session because the default mode for a Docker IPVlan network is layer 2, so that's why it worked. But you need to pay attention and remember that the correct keyword for specifying the IPVlan mode is IPVlan underscore mode L3, and the name of the Docker network should be IPNet. Alright, so it's happy with this command. And sorry, here it is, our new shiny IPVlan network. So what we can do with this, we can start a couple of containers and attach them to this network. So let's do that. Docker container run. I will start 2 containers and I will give them names so we can identify them. Alright, network, important, IPNet, and my image is called ALPINET. And I can start one the same. Sorry, this should be ALPINET2, network IPNet, and the image name is ALPINET. So here are my 2 containers running. Each of these containers has an SSHD service running. And let's see the IP addresses assigned to these containers. We can either inspect the network or each container. I will inspect the network. and you will see two containers attached to this network, and the IP addresses are this one, 15.2 and 15.3. Now let's see if we can ping these IP addresses, 192.168.15.2, and it's working, but it shouldn't. This is a pitfall, let's say, and it's a tricky one. If you are looking at the links, this is the main giveaway. There is no IPVlan interface in this default namespace that can communicate with these IPVlan interfaces inside the containers. And you should know that IPVlan is working with, in this regards, similarly with MacVlan. You cannot communicate from the default namespace with other IPVlan networks if you don't have an IPVlan network interface in that namespace. So how is this happening? Also, there is, if you are looking at the routing table, you will not see the 192.168.15 nowhere here. There is just the default, which is how a VirtualBox machine with NAT network attached is working. Basically, this is my first interface on this virtual machine that is attached to a VirtualBox NATed network, and this is how I get to the internet. And in our case, this is also the way I am getting to the containers, and it's a bit it's like a looping back. I will draw a diagram which I hope will clarify more this thing. So let me do it like this. I have here my ENP0S3, which is that interface with the default route. This has something like 10.0.2.15 maybe. And there's another interface which I used as the parent interface for the IPVlan network, Docker network, and this is ENP0S8, and this has the IP 192.168.56.100. All right, let me put this with a different color. Good. And here I have my containers, also this with a different color, C1 192.168.15.2, and there is C2 with 192.168.15.3. Okay, so these are containers. And these are connected through this parent interface as IPVlan. So going further, you know that this boundary here is my virtual machine, and this is connected here to some sort of let's say it's a routing process. Actually, it's a routing process of VirtualBox, which is doing routing and packet forwarding and also NATing. And this router has a couple of interfaces connected to it. One of them is the default internet interface. Let's say I have something like 193.xyz, doesn't matter. And the other one is 192.168, there's a different interface, 168.56.1, and this interface is connected here to my virtual machine. So my virtual machine has two interfaces, and one of them is binded to a virtual NAT interface of VirtualBox, and this one to a loopback interface on my physical host. Doesn't matter all these details so much. The important thing to know is that our packets towards the containers will be originated initially with this IP address, but here will be netted to 56.1, and they will come back with the source 56.1. And we know that for IPVlan as well as for MacVlan, we can communicate with the containers from outside the parent interface. So if here I have let's say a switch attached, all these hosts from here are able to communicate with my containers with no problem. This is the way it should work. But if I want to ping from here directly to my containers and I don't have an IPVlan interface in my default namespace, it's not possible. In my case, and in this weird scenario, you see it's possible, but it is like this because of this NAT that is happening over here, and it's looping back. So what I need to do if I want to configure this correctly is to create an IPVlan interface here in the default namespace. So one more thing, let me show you also Wireshark capture. All right, so here is my my traffic pinging from this NATed source to the destination. All right, we can stop this. So and there's another important point in here that I kind of kept it hidden from you. The routing table on my physical host, it has a route to this subnet. I have created it before, so that's why packets are looping back over here. Anyway, now we can switch back to the console, and again, let me demonstrate even further. If I delete the route from here, thing like this, or delete 192.168.15.0 mask. All right, and the ping stopped working. So until now it seems to work as planned. How I can configure things to work the way I want and the way it's supposed to work in a predictable manner. I said I need to configure an IPVlan network in the default IPVlan link in the default namespace. So let's do that. IP link add. The parent interface would be ENP0S8, same as with the Docker network. Name is IPnet 0. It's of type IPVlan and mode is layer 3. Let's display the details for this. IPVlan mode layer 3 and the parent interface is EMP0S8. Let's bring it up. IP link set dev IPnet 0 up. And let's try and assign and configure a route through this one to my IPVlan subnet. So IP route add 192.168.15.0/24 straight through the device IP net 0. Let's display this. I have it here. Let's try again the ping. It's not working. At some point I managed to make it work without assigning an IP address. But I don't know. Now it's not working like that. So I will assign an IP address for this interface. I can just do something like this. IPnet 0. Let's try the ping again, 192.168.15.2, and it seems to work all right. So as you can see, doesn't matter the IP that you assign here. If you test from inside the container, and I will do that actually. Let me do an SSH to a container admin 192.168.15.2. Sure enough, this is the name we chose when we created the container, and it's not allowing me to ping because I'm not root, but I will start a shell inside this container actually. Docker container exec bin bash. Now I should be actually sh. Now I should be root, and I can also ping this one 1.1.1.1. So doesn't matter with IPVlan is very forgiving when it comes to routing. You just need to put a default route through the interface, and all the connected interfaces will be reachable with their IPs. IPVlan interfaces, I mean. So that's the whole thing. Now I can put back my route here. (192.168.15.0) mask. All right, and through this IP 56.100, which is the IP of my virtual machine. So now I can ping them from here also. And if you want to check this out, I can ping again the containers from here and do a traffic capture, but I'm not sure if I will catch it here. Let me try it. No, it's not seen here because it's not exiting of my physical interface. The packets are routed inside my virtual machine here, so that's why you don't see it with Wireshark. So it's actually a confirmation that it's working as expected. This is pretty much the setup that I wanted to show you with IPVlan in Docker. I hope it clarified a couple of things for you. Now, as you saw already, this setup with the VirtualBox and the NAT, it's quite tricky, and it can fool you. So my point is that is not enough to see it working. You need to understand why it's working and how it's working. So that was it. See you in the next lesson. Bye bye.